When I booked this house, I had no idea what it was hiding inside, and how easy it is to become a faceless body, intended for one purpose only, to further the lineage of a madman, a rapist. Darkness mixed with pouring rain made finding the rental house much more difficult, as the GPS, of course, was acting like the mind of a lunatic, switching from one thought to another. 66911, I said aloud, looking at the message from the homeowner, trying to memorize the code for the box that held the house's key. Sighing heavily, I turned off the engine and stepped out of the car. Quickly grabbing my things from the back seat, I ran toward the house through the downpour, repeating the magic numbers. A small box with an electronic lock hung on the porch at a height where even a child could enter the code. I quickly punched in 66911, and of course that damn code didn't work. It was infuriating because this time of year, the rain and cold air make you feel every single internal organ. Hunched over the lock with trembling hands, I pulled my phone from the pocket of my raincoat and checked the code again. It was correct. I tried one more time and the box finally clicked open. But what the hell? There was no key inside. After tugging on the front door handle, I decided to call the company through which I rented the house. After a while, I finally got through to voicemail.
Hi, you've reached Laura Klein from Best Rentals in Town. I can't take your call right now. Leave a message, and I'll get back to you.
Are you fucking kidding me? I thought, utterly baffled by the situation. But I left a message anyway. Hey, I'm in town. I'm at the house I rented, standing on the porch while it's pouring rain. And guess what? There's no key in the box. So, please, call me back at this number. Damn it. I'm really starting to freeze, I thought, rubbing my hands and shoulders. Looking around, I realized the neighbor situation here was bleak. Not a single house had lights on. And there wasn't any street lighting either. So, standing on the porch, I could barely make out the faint silhouettes of the neighboring rooftops in the dark. This is the kind of place where you'd get fucked, have your throat slit, and no one would ever know. I need to get the hell out of here, I thought, and headed back to the car. Inserting the key into the ignition, I caught a glimpse of some movement near the house out of the corner of my eye. Looking closer, I noticed a light had turned on in one of the windows. Quickly jumping out of the car, I rushed back to the porch. With persistent, maybe even frantic motions, I pressed the doorbell repeatedly. No one answered. Peeking through the window, I saw a guy entering the room, trying to make me out through the curtains covering the window. When he finally noticed me, he approached the door and opened it. He was a young man, around 30, fairly good-looking and pleasant on the outside, but damn it. Sometimes maniacs look just like that. Dressed to the nines, good job, and even, for crying out loud, a full-fledged family. He looked around, puzzled, and asked,
Yeah?
I was stunned that he acted like he had no idea what I was doing there. Excuse me, who are you? I asked, trying to be as polite as possible.
What? Who are you?
He asked me, confused. I asked him for the address again, just to make sure I wasn't at the wrong place. The guy couldn't remember it, and mumbled something about just renting the place and not needing to remember the address every time someone asked. What? I've already rented this place. I booked it on Airbnb almost a month ago, I said, feeling a bit nervous.
I rented it through a local agency. Are you sure you came to the right place?
The guy asked, looking just as confused and baffled. I checked the address in the app again. The place was correct. The date was correct, too. And the code for the lockbox had worked.
This is insane,
the guy said in disbelief. So what am I supposed to do now? I asked. For a few seconds, we just stood there, staring at each other, completely unsure of what to do next. Finally, the guy snapped out of it first and said,
Why don't you come in? Warm up, and then we can call those idiots.
He stepped aside, motioning for me to come in. I'll be honest, I'm not really a fan of spending the night with a stranger in the middle of nowhere. Who is this guy? What the hell is he doing here? Maybe he's the one who rented me the house and is just pretending not to know what's going on. Although, I have to admit, he is pretty cute. After hesitating for a moment, I thought, okay, I'll go inside, warm up, and at the very least, Google myself a hotel room. Then I'll get out of this house. With hesitant, cautious steps, I walked into the house. Or rather, I made the biggest mistake of my life that I could ever make. When I entered the house, it seemed perfectly safe and cozy. Scanning the living room carefully, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. A pretty cozy place to be raped and murdered, I thought sarcastically. The bad feeling wouldn't leave me alone, so I decided to explore the house a bit more thoroughly. "Do you mind if I use the bathroom?" I asked the stranger.
Yeah, of course. It's just down the hall to the left.
He replied calmly. "All right, I'll be right back," I said, heading toward the bathroom with growing tension inside. I could feel his eyes on my back. The sense of unease intensified. My hands were slightly trembling. Then, an idea crossed my mind. I could check his online booking. Stopping in my tracks, I turned to him, my voice a little shaky. "Would you mind showing me your booking confirmation just so I can feel at ease?"
Oh, you mean in case I'm some crazy idiot who broke into the house just to crash here for the night?
He replied, sounding offended. "I get it. People usually take requests like this as an insult, but you know, better safe than sorry. I'd rather not regret it later, lying in a basement with a gag in my mouth and my pants down."
Yeah, fine, let me just find my phone.
After a brief pause, I went to find the bathroom. The bedroom door was open. Clothes were thrown all over the bed, like the kind of mess you'd expect from a bachelor who never knows where his socks are. Just overall chaos. There's the bathroom. Nothing unusual so far. But damn, this still feels sketchy. That guy is weird. I locked the bathroom door from the inside, walked over to the mirror, and thought, fuck, how could I get into such a mess? Sitting on the toilet, I saw a small bag on the sink. Toothpaste, deodorant for stinky armpits, and other crap. An electric toothbrush plugged into the wall was sitting on the floor, and on the edge of the tub were half-used bottles of shampoo and body wash. Looks like the guy really has been living here for a while. Doesn't seem like some junkie who broke in to crash. But the real question is, what's he doing here? And can I trust his story that he rented this place just like I did? When I returned to the living room, I noticed the guy wasn't where he'd been 5 minutes ago. Bitch, I knew something was fishy here.
Here.
Ow!
Jesus.
I nearly shit myself when he snuck up on me from behind so quietly. "Sorry, I didn't hear you coming," I apologized for some reason, though. Hell, I was the one who almost died of a heart attack right here.
I was just looking for my phone.
He showed me his phone. Yeah, he wasn't lying. He had the same booking for this house as I did. The address, the agency, the dates, everything matched. We stared at each other again, totally baffled. How is this even possible?
Listen, I don't know what people usually do in situations like this.
He said, sounding a bit confused. Me neither, I said, frustrated. The voice in my head kept saying, "Leave, as fast as you can," even though I couldn't figure out why. Everything seemed fine. After thinking about it, I decided it was probably best to head back to the car and search for another place to stay. I made my way toward the door.
Hey, I feel kind of awkward about all this.
He said, watching me walk away. "It's obviously not your fault," I said, throwing my hands up.
So what are you gonna do? Drive around these sketchy neighborhoods in the dark, looking for a hotel?
He asked, sounding genuinely concerned. "I'll make a few calls. See what's still available."
I don't think that's a good idea. Being alone in your car around here at night, I wouldn't do it, that's for sure.
He said, clearly worried.
Listen, if you want to stay here where it's dry and the door's locked, I'm totally fine with that.
He said, stepping toward me. I thought about his words. Maybe he had a point. I'd heard enough stories about these old, run-down neighborhoods in Detroit. "Okay, I'll just Google a hotel here and leave right after," I told myself, taking off my raincoat. All right, let's see what's available in Detroit at this hour, I thought as I scrolled through the list of hotels online.
Here's the Wi-Fi password.
The guy handed me an old, crumpled flyer.
By the way, I'm Lecter.
Clarice, I replied, still a bit nervous.
Clarice, that's a beautiful name.
Thanks.
Do you want anything? I think there's some tea in the kitchen.
No thanks.
Damn, someone left a bottle of wine here with a ribbon on it, and there are even some nuts to go with it. So, if you want, just saying.
He awkwardly pointed out everything in the kitchen, trying to lighten the mood. It's fine, I said with a smile and continued searching for a hotel.
I'll make you some tea anyway.
He said, heading deeper into the house. Looks like I found something, I thought as I dialed the hotel's number. Hi, I just wanted to ask, do you have any rooms available? Yes, for tonight, that's right. Really? Okay, thanks. I said, disappointed as I stared back at the list of nearby hotels.
Oh crap. You know what I just realized?
He said, a bit disappointed and sympathetic. What?
There's a conference going on in town.
What kind?
Yeah, they're having some big-ass medical thing going on, so I don't think you'll have much luck finding a place tonight.
I can't believe this, I said, rubbing my temples in frustration. The guy sighed deeply, his face full of sympathy.
Okay, here's what I suggest. Why don't you crash here for the night?
Even though I love sleeping on the couch at home, the idea of doing it here really freaked me out. Oh no, I don't think that's a good—
No. I'll take the couch and you can sleep in the bedroom.
He said quickly.
And tomorrow we'll call those idiots and demand our money back. Free stay for both of us.
Lecter insisted.
I honestly don't know what else we can do in this situation.
At that moment, I was completely torn, not sure what was worse. Spending the night in my own car on a sketchy street in Detroit, or staying warm and cozy with a complete stranger. What would you have chosen in my place? Let me know in the comments. My thoughts were swirling around in exhaustion, and I guess the desire for comfort won out. So I said, you know, I can take the couch.
No. Think whatever you want about me, but there's no way I'm taking the bedroom while a young girl sleeps on the couch. That's just not up for discussion.
Lecter fired back, firmly rejecting my offer. Look, no offense, but I kinda have a thing about clean sheets, I said with an awkward smile. He just waved it off like it was no big deal and headed toward the bedroom. While the bed linens were in the wash, I sat there, staring thoughtfully at the cup of tea Lecter had made for me. What's in this tea? I wondered. Maybe sleeping pills, or some strong drug that'll knock me out slowly and quietly. My thoughts were interrupted by the front door opening, and Lecter walking in with my things from the car. You really didn't have to do that, I said, standing up from the couch, grateful.
Not up for debate?
Lecter replied, pulling off the wet hood of his rain jacket. I locked the bedroom door from the inside, tossed my bag onto the bed, and pulled out a change of clothes while still browsing for a hotel online. Suddenly, I noticed a wallet lying on the nightstand. It had various store cards and a driver's license. Well, this is something. So, the guy was from Brooklyn. The license was valid. I decided to snap a picture of the license. Any document could be evidence if I had to deal with the police. Or at the very least, if I vanished by morning, something I wasn't ruling out, and someone found my phone, it would be a good lead. You left this in the bedroom, I said, holding up the wallet to Lecter.
Oh crap, thanks, you've got sharp eyes.
He said, rushing over to grab his wallet. I'm going to wash up, I said flatly, heading toward the bathroom.
Yeah, of course, make yourself at home.
First, lock the bathroom door from the inside. Second, brush my teeth and change clothes. Third, exhale and finally try to relax, I thought. The feel of my familiar clothes gave me a sense of calm. The smell reminded me of home and was comforting. I brushed my hair, took a deep breath, and headed back to the living room. The guy was already waiting for me, sitting at the table with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. When he saw me, he seemed a little flustered, almost apologetic.
Yeah, the laundry is still going, and since I can't sleep, I thought maybe we could have a little wine.
I had absolutely no desire to drink anything with a stranger right now, so I glanced indifferently at the bottle and politely declined.
But I didn't want to open it while you were in the bathroom because, well, I noticed you didn't drink your tea, and I totally get why. A strange guy, outskirts of town and all that. So I thought you might not want the wine if I opened it while you weren't here. So I waited for you.
The guy was doing his best to convince me he wasn't dangerous, but I still preferred to stay cautious. "I'm not drinking, but you go ahead," I replied rather dryly.
Are you sure?
"Yeah."
All right.
Lecter awkwardly pulled the red ribbon off the bottle and, after peeling away the protective foil, started twisting the corkscrew into the cork. After hesitating for a moment, I sat down at the table across from him, holding the clothes I had worn when I arrived. "I'm really sorry this happened," I said, watching him open the wine.
It's not your fault.
He said, pulling the stubborn cork from the bottle.
Want me to make you another cup of tea?
"No thanks," I said, smiling awkwardly.
You can watch this time.
Lecter chuckled as he poured himself a glass of wine. "I'll pass." After taking a sip of wine, he asked,
So, what brings you to town?
"An interview.
Mind if I ask, for what job?
A research position for a documentary filmmaker.
Really? Who's the director?
I don't think you'd know her."
Is there a film of hers I might have seen?
I named a film that probably only the creators and their relatives had watched, and then he tells me that he's seen it. "Yeah, right. Sure you did," I thought with a sarcastic smile, lying through his teeth without batting an eye.
No, I'm serious. It's a great movie about the brass band, and there's that scene with the boy on the roof playing one of their compositions. Yeah, that was really cool.
Looks like the guy actually did see the film. Well, okay then. "I can't believe you've actually seen it," I exclaimed in surprise. "I never thought anyone—"
Yeah, I've seen it. So what's her new film about?
Lecter asked, pouring himself another glass of wine, clearly intrigued. "Oh, it's about Detroit. About musicians who come here and form creative communities. You know, people making music on the edge. Basically, in a place where housing is practically free." Lecter perked up at my words.
Oh, that's awesome. You know who you need to interview for that?
"Who?" I asked, already feeling a bit suspicious.
Me.
"And why's that?" I asked, raising an eyebrow.
Because I'm one of the founders of the Dungeon Angels.
He said, with a smug look, taking a sip of his wine. "Just so you understand, this is a well-known band that would never hang out in a place like where we were right now." "You're kidding," I asked in disbelief.
No, I mean,
The guy was trying to play it humble, but he wasn't doing a great job at it.
I'm not the main guy or anything, but I'm one of the founders.
Something clicked inside me at that moment, and before I realized it, this guy had transformed in my mind from a dangerous stranger to an intriguing musician. These were exactly the kind of people I'd be working with if I got the job. "This is crazy," I squealed, leaning toward him with a big smile.
It is crazy.
Lecter said with a modest smile, nodding. Then I asked him, why the hell was he even here? Their band should have a whole neighborhood of their own. What was he doing in this place? Lecter said, yeah, they have their own space, but he was here for a week to scout for another spot, as he put it, to expand their dungeon. "Oh my God," I breathed out, looking at him with a friendly, amazed expression. Finally relaxing, I felt a wave of relief. I wasn't freaking out anymore about wandering the dark streets of Detroit suburbs like a stray dog, looking for a place to crash. Lecter turned out to be a pretty cool guy. We got comfy in the living room and started talking about the crappiest thrillers and horror movies we'd seen recently. Come on, it's so cliché and overdone in movies. The guy who thinks he loves the girl but basically treats her like his pet. Or at least he thinks he loves her. And she just lets it happen, I insisted, trying to prove my point to Lecter. And yeah, my ex was exactly like that. And I was an idiot too scared to leave him, I added. That's actually one of the reasons I decided to move to Detroit.
But you got through it. Look at you. You've got a new job lined up, and you're in a city where you can wipe the slate clean.
There was something in his gaze that was calming, giving me a boost of confidence. And yeah, the wine left by the hosts as a little gift was hitting the spot. It had a bit of an odd taste, but as my mom always said,
I don't drink, but wine is sacred.
Anyway, back to Lecter. It's just an interview, so I'm not out of the woods yet, I said, feeling a twinge of disgust as I thought about my ex.
Look, there are always going to be people who use others to get what they want. It's on us to decide if we're going to play along or not.
Listen, I think it's just in a guy's nature. Dudes will walk all over you for as long as you let them.
I'm not buying that.
Oh, of course. You're one of the guys, aren't you? Everything in this world is made for you. You guys are willing to step over anyone just to get what you want. Bottom line is, us girls need to stay on guard.
Oh yeah? And why's that? Spell it out for me.
All right, take tonight for example. Imagine if I had checked in first and you showed up later.
What? You wouldn't have let me in?
Hell no! I'm not some dumb girl who just lets random people into a house.
So I look like a monster now?
No! That's not what I meant, I said with a smile.
All right, I get it. There are a lot of bad guys out there and it sucks.
Lecter said in a soft, reassuring tone.
But you're not gonna let one jerk who used you close you off from the world, right? Keep going. Maybe try finding someone else. Even if it means you might get your heart broken again, you've got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's just that in those situations, it's always the girl who ends up heartbroken.
Girls can break hearts too, trust me.
Lecter said quietly with a hint of sadness in his eyes. I didn't even notice how he polished off the bottle of wine, found another one, and somehow ended up in the bedroom. Lecter was goofing around, showing all kinds of ridiculous and hilariously stupid ways to make the bed. I was laughing so hard my ribs hurt, but I just couldn't stop. He was so sweet and funny. At one point I took a sip, and on one of his antics, the wine shot out of my nose, making him jump back.
So, you're officially checked in.
Lecter said, swaying slightly and jokingly pretending to be a hotel clerk. Thanks, I replied, a little embarrassed by the awkward pause. For a few seconds, we just stared at each other in silence. The only thing you could hear was our breathing. You know, that awkward pause, like at the end of a first date when it's time to go home, but neither of you really wants to.
All right, thanks for tonight. Sorry I didn't let you get some rest before your big day.
Lecter said awkwardly, rubbing his hands and swaying from side to side. Oh no, it was fun. I really enjoyed it, I replied with a soft, shy smile.
Yeah, me too. Okay, I'm off. The couch is calling my name.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. I'm good. I've slept in much worse places. Good night, Clarice.
Lecter said with a shy smile. Good night, Lecter, I said, a little excited, watching him leave the room and gently close the door behind him. Completely drained but satisfied, I collapsed onto the bed and didn't even notice when I passed out. A strange creaking sound drifting through my sleep from somewhere deep in the house woke me up. Groggily, I opened my eyes and listened. Dead, ringing silence. Must have been my imagination. What the hell is this? I shot up from the bed, staring at the door in panic. What the fuck? I knew I closed the door. Stupid girl, I thought, cursing myself. 3 glasses of wine and you lose all sense of caution, remembering I hadn't even locked the door from the inside. In the darkness, I squinted into the living room, barely visible through the open door. It was pitch black. I couldn't see a damn thing. But what was that sound? It almost sounded like someone moaning. Focusing harder, I made out Lecter lying on the couch, his movements strange and unsettling. It was hard to tell. Was he having some kind of seizure, faking something, or just trapped in a bad dream? I couldn't make sense of it. What the hell is going on? I thought, tossing the blanket aside and stepping out of the bedroom. Carefully moving in the dark toward the couch where Lecter lay, I mentally calculated how fast and where I'd run if he tried anything. Lecter? I whispered his name cautiously, almost afraid to say it. As I got closer, I could see him trembling and twitching, like someone stuck in a nightmare, trapped trying to escape but running in circles, constantly crashing into the thing or place he was fleeing from. Lecter. A faint creak echoed behind me. I froze for a second and turned toward the hallway leading to the basement. Silence. Must have imagined it. Moving slowly, trying not to startle Lecter, I reached out and lightly shook his shoulder. He kept twitching in his sleep. His face looked scared. His breathing was ragged. Lecter, I said cautiously, watching him closely. Suddenly, he went still, quiet. After hesitating for a moment, I nervously extended my hand toward his shoulder again, barely touching him. Lecter.
Ah! Shit!
Lecter screamed, jumping up suddenly. My heart nearly leaped out of my chest as I threw my hands up and stumbled backward. I'm sorry, I stammered, my voice shaky.
What are you doing?
he asked, breathing heavily, confusion all over his face. Oh, sorry. My door was open, and I didn't open it, you know? And I couldn't figure out if it was you who opened it, or... And there were these weird sounds, then I realized it was probably you making them in your sleep. And, well, yeah.
I was making sounds in my sleep?
Lecter asked, still totally confused. His face looked even more freaked out than mine. Look, I'm sorry. Really, I just got scared. Let's just go back to sleep.
You scared the crap out of me, you know that?
Did you open my door? I asked, still trying to piece together what the hell happened.
No!
Lecter answered firmly. Feeling completely lost, I headed back to the bedroom. This time I locked the door from the inside and double-checked, probably 100 times, to make sure it was locked. Then I collapsed onto the bed again. But sleep didn't come easily after that. I think I finally passed out just before dawn. Fucking great! Exactly what I needed before my interview. Bitch, there's always something wrong with me. I must have been out cold, because when I woke up, the sun was already high in the sky. Slowly opening my eyes, one thought hit me. The door. I groggily sat up and glanced at the door. Closed. I let out a relieved breath and collapsed back onto the pillow. Out of habit, I grabbed my phone without looking, just to check for notifications, and suddenly, a cold sweat hit me. Shit. The interview. I need to hurry. Throwing on my jeans as I stumbled around, I rushed toward the bathroom. Lecter! I called out, glancing around the living room as I passed. The house was silent. He must have left already. Okay, I need to hurry. I can't miss this chance. Ready to take on the HR manager, I headed for the door. My eyes fell on a strange slip of paper lying on the coffee table near the couch. Hey, I had to run. Please leave the key in the lockbox and see you tonight. Good luck with your interview. Lecter. P.S. Had a great time last night. Thanks, I thought with a soft smile. After placing the key in the lockbox, I calmly made my way to the car. But something caught my eye. And I slowed down, lifting my gaze. The street, which I hadn't really gotten a look at last night, now stretched out before me in all its, well, glory, if you could call it that. It was a street that probably hadn't seen people walking or driving on it for decades. Abandoned, decaying houses stood around me, overgrown with debris and neglect. The paint had long since peeled away, exposing the rotting insides of the buildings. Just looking at them, I could almost smell it, the stench of loneliness, danger, and lawlessness. The houses were covered in random graffiti. One of the houses across the street had a huge message scrawled across it: "Death from below." The whole street seemed to scream at me, "Leave or die." Creepy as hell. Jumping into the car as quickly as I could, I headed toward downtown Detroit. The farther I drove through the streets of this neighborhood, the stronger the urge to floor the gas and get the hell out of there. Many of the houses looked like monsters, lying still along the road, just waiting for the right moment to devour their prey. You know, those skeletal, sometimes hideously misshapen monsters. Some of these monster houses had been burned down to the ground, looking like demons rising from the gray, hellish ash. Finally, I merged onto the highway, and the anxiety that had been gnawing at me started to fade away, left behind with that creepy neighborhood. Half an hour later, I pulled up in front of the office building in Detroit where my interview was scheduled. All right, get it together, I thought to myself. You need this job if you're ever going to get away from that jerk. I adjusted my clothes, trying to shake off the wave of nausea that hit me every time I thought about my ex, the one I was still stuck living with. But soon, I'd start fresh. I found a comfy spot at a table and waited for the HR manager. Lecter's not bad, I thought with a smile, glancing at the photo of my new friend's driver's license. Kind of funny guy, too. Clarice? I heard a friendly voice from behind me. We exchanged a polite handshake with the HR manager and sat down to discuss the potential role I was interviewing for. Everything was going smoothly. Toward the end of our meeting, she asked where I was staying during the interview process. Brightmoor, you know where that is? I replied, trying not to show my nerves as I shifted slightly in my seat. What? Are you kidding? She asked, her face filled with confusion and concern. Yeah, I get it. The area looks a little, rough around the edges, I said, trying to brush it off. You really shouldn't be there. I'm serious, she said, her expression clearly showing her worry. What do you mean? I asked, trying to hide the growing unease I felt about that place. Before she could respond, I blurted out something about being tough and having a roommate now, so everything would be fine. Okay, just be careful, all right? The HR manager said, her voice full of concern as she shook my hand. I will. And hey, it was great meeting you, I said with a nervous smile. Likewise, I'll call you tomorrow, okay? It's gonna be great, she quickly said as she walked away. With a heavy heart, I made my way back to the car, feeling a knot of worry tightening in my chest. Overall, the interview went well. Or rather, it was just the first part of it. I still had a few more meetings to go before I'd know if I was joining the team or not. So, I'd be stuck in this forgotten neighborhood for a few more days, no doubt about that. The fear that someone might jump out and attack my car haunted me the whole way, making me run red lights and push past the speed limit a few times. I knew how dangerous these places could be. A neighborhood where you could buy a house for just $1. How does that sound? Would you want to spend a night or even a few days there? And once again, those monster houses. A chill ran down my spine as I thought about spending the next few nights surrounded by them. You can do this. You can do this, I whispered to myself, pressing harder on the gas. Pulling up to the house, I killed the engine and sat there for a few seconds, maybe even a few minutes, just looking around. What the hell is wrong with this neighborhood? Why did I feel like a little abandoned girl all alone? Maybe it was just the stress from the interview kicking in. Or maybe it was everything. The last few years with an abusive boyfriend, the interview, some random guy in the house I rented. Who knows? But inside, I was shaking like crazy. Anyway, pulling myself together, I got out of the car and headed toward the front door.
Hey!
I heard a raspy voice from somewhere deep down the street. Without stopping, I glanced in the direction of the sound. Someone was quickly approaching me. His rough voice shouted menacingly,
Hey, little girl!
I picked up my pace.
Hey, come here!
He yelled as I broke into a run toward the door. With shaky hands, I grabbed the door handle, praying Lecter had already come back, but it was locked.
Come here!
The rusty, aggressive voice shouted again, much closer now. My fingers fumbled desperately over the buttons on the lockbox. Come on, open up already!
Hey, little girl!
The voice called out, now right behind me. Oh God, not like this. I don't want to die like this, I thought, pulling the key from the lockbox.
Hey, little girl!
I shoved the key into the door and slipped inside. Through the crack of the closing door, I caught a glimpse of his long, dirty, tangled hair, ragged clothes, and limp gait.
Hey, little girl!
He crashed into the door with his full weight, just as I shut it in his face.
Get out of that house! I said.
He started pounding on the door with his palms, screaming like a madman.
I said get out of that house!
Get lost! I shouted, dialing the police as I bolted toward the bedroom where my bags
Hey,
were.
little girl!
To be continued.
Thanks for sticking around. If you're into the story so far, hit that like button and drop a comment below. I'm curious to hear what you think. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.